Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. This time we are making kind of a different video. So instead of talking about War Thunder, today we're going to talk about one of my favorite game series. We're gonna be talking about Red Dead Redemption, the storyline about it, and how Rockstar could probably revive it and make it so there could be a third and probably fourth installment. And basically, yes, how I would probably prefer the game to have been. It's good in the way it is. It's amazing. One of the best ever, but it could be better. So yeah, well, not better, but kind of change things around so we could get a third installment. Well, yeah, we could probably follow Jack around. I feel like it would just be repetitive because that's basically what Red Dead Redemption 1 is. So in my storyline, we start when Arthur gets TB, so tuberculosis, whatever it's called in the original story from Rockstar. But in my story, instead of Arthur getting TB, he just gets injured in a way that affects him enough so the player can feel it during battles and gunfights. So it's either he slows down, his stamina is less, he's not as fast, but not to make the game end in a different way where he dies either way. So we can get the third installment. So now we go to the ending of Red Dead Redemption 2 where Arthur gets stabbed. Well, this time he doesn't have to get stabbed, but most players, if they play the way it's supposed to be played, he'll get stabbed and he'll lay down looking up at the sky while helping John escape, which then sets the installment for Red Dead Redemption 1. So, am I? He gets stabbed either way, but he lays down, face up, looking at the sky, and during this time, screen starts fading black while you're turning up towards the sky. But what we don't see behind screen is that uh Arthur during this whole time during Red Dead Redemption 2, where we as the player we don't get to see this, but he had a secret relationship with a nurse. And now this nurse at the end comes back to help Arthur once the guys who stab him leave. I forgot what they're called. They leave and she helps him, cures him, and basically rescues him. And now since we changed it so that Arthur doesn't get TB, he can go to Tahiti. So now he can get on that trolley and he can go to Tahiti, right? Which sets the he sets the storyline for the third installment the way I wanted and think it would be fire for the player and for a fourth installment too. So now we go back to Red Dead Redemption 1 where John and Abigail have Jack. But this time in my story, Jack, well, I think it also happens in the original story if I remember. John and Abigail die, which opens the door for the third installment. So now we see we open up the third installment with Jack, an orphan kid whose parents died, and Arthur comes to get him at the middle of the night. He takes him back to where he's staying, Tahiti, picking mangoes from trees, I guess. And Arthur also has his own kid, Leonardo, which is the son of the nurse and Arthur, which we never saw because this is behind the screen. So now we see this Leonardo, Jack, they get together, they start training. They couple months go by, but the boys get older. Then 2 years go by, they are old enough. Now they are sitting out watching the beach from their house on Tahiti, obviously picking mangoes and stuff. So now we see this, and so now as the boys and Arthur are sitting out, Arthur opens up and tells them one of the biggest secrets of the gang that almost nobody knows. They had a secret vault with a big fortune in it. So now Arthur needs the money for something. We don't know what it is yet. He just needs the money. And after training the boys on everything he knows, since he was one of the best gunslingers during his days, he asked the boys to go back to the old town where Arthur had his whole arc and all his issues and find the boat and get the money and come back. So the boys go back to the USA where our Red Dead Redemption 2 took place, but now it has changed. Everything has changed. Now it's not like the old west. Now it's a industrialized place with factories, big cities and stuff. So now they must change. They can't wear gunslinger attires no more. They must put on suits and act as casuals. Arthur handed them a old map of the blessed place where he knew the boat was, um, and they get a new map. They must cross-reference both maps to find out the location of the boat. What the boys don't know is that the sheriff where the boat is at is a survivor of one of Arthur's old gang attacks. He survived, but while Jackson and Leo are going by, he recognizes Jack. So he's curious what the boys are doing there. He doesn't recognize Leo, he recognizes Jack. So he wonders what they were doing there. He keeps an eye on them, and the boys they can tell. So they don't go out during the day that much. They stay at their hideout in the forest. They only go out at night, gathering clues and intel and doing their stuff. So now we time skip couple like 1 2 months later. We're doing one night where the boys are about to gather the biggest clue on where the boat is. They um they slip up. Jack shoots at a bounty hunter that was going after them because uh he remembered Jack and well his family obviously they were tied to the old gang who was Jack's dad, John, was hunting down for the law. So he remembers this. They shoot at the bounty hunter, but the issue is they were too close to the city. So the sheriff hears this gunshot and comes looking at them. And he, but now it's not just the boys. There's also a new young lady, Elizabeth. She fell in love. Well, Jack fell in love with her, while Leo and him were finding clues, running intel, trying to find the ball. And during this night, she is there. She witnesses everything. She does a snitch. She is accomplice to the boys and their gunslinging adventure. So they must flee back to their hideout as they hear the lawmen coming. But they leave tracks behind with their horses because the soil was wet that night. Now this gives the sheriff a clue to where their hideout is. But the sheriff doesn't dare to make a move because he remembers what Arthur did was able to do by himself to lots of people. So he kind of just keeps eyes on them. He puts spies on them. The boys start noticing them. But now that they have the biggest clue, they figured out where the boat is at an old house from the gang from back in the day. Now the next day, they go to a river. They meet up at a river. The trio, the trio is discussing their plan for that night because they know it's their big hit time. It's now or never since the sheriff knows and he's preparing to raid them and he had a spy while they were at the river. He had a spy listening on their conversation. The trio notices that, so they shoot at him. Leo misses. Leo is the one who shot, but he misses. He only hurts him, injuring him. So now the spy makes it back to the sheriff, tells him their game plan for that night, tells them where they are gonna be. The trio goes to a new spot to keep talking since they didn't get to finish discussing their plan. They gathered two more accomplices to help them out that night. So they know the boat is at an old house from the gang that is half burned, so the entrance is kind of hard to find. They pack guns, bags. They get the fastest horses in that town, and they plan to go there at midnight. And they know most likely that the sheriff is gonna be there by the time they get there too. So they prepare for gunfights and these two accomplices they will be in charge of setting up a trap. Once that gang gets the money into the bags, they will wait for the sheriff to come, kind of baiting him in. They will get on the horses, gallop as fast as they can towards these two trees where the accomplices, after the trio makes it past the trees, they will lift up a rope, tripping over the sheriff and his men on the horses. So once the plan is set in, the trio stays in their hideout for the day, waits until night falls. Now that the night has come, they head out, everything prepared, torches, everything. because they are gonna burn up the house too after they are done. Now, they get there, they look around for the entrance for around half an hour, having to move burned up piles of wood and decorations, chairs, and stuff. They find the entrance. They make it into the vault using dynamite to open the door. Now, the sheriff hears the explosion from afar. He's getting close. The trio must hurry and pack all the money. There is so much money that, well, they can't fit it onto their bags. They must leave it behind and burn it up. So they get out, pack everything back up, get their horses, get their guns. Sheriff is about to get there. They see the trio. The sheriff sees the trio, so the trio starts making a beeline for the trees, just how they planned everything out. They make it past the trees. Sheriff right behind them. Accomplices pulls up the ropes. The sheriff and his lawman fall off the horses. So the gang drops some money for the accomplices. Accomplices just go back to their daily lives without the sheriff ever noticing them. But the biggest twist is the sheriff turns out to not have died. He was injured, his men died, they broke their necks and stuff. Only a couple survived, including the sheriff. So now we leave the sheriff and we come back to the trio. But now the trio, they must make a beeline for California to catch their boat to back to Tahiti, where they have bribed the crew to let them on without asking for passports or anything and not letting security know. So they make their beeline for weeks. It's gonna take them weeks to get there. They must avoid avoid the law, avoid bounty hunters. They must go through rough terrain, surviving off the wilderness, and they finally get into Cali. They get into a gunfight right before getting on the boat. They get on the boat. They go to Tahiti. Turns out, Mama, the nurse, Arthur's wife, Leo's mom, is sick. She's very sick. She's been sick since the boys left. And now Arthur needed the money to pay a doctor to give her medicine because he couldn't afford it at the time. He had nothing left after the gang collapsed. So now the boys, they pay for the medicine. They live couple months calm, Time goes by. We get a time skip. Jack and Elizabeth, they are expecting a kid. They are married, but couple months later, the sheriff and more lawmen come to the island. They found the trio's trail, and now it's either the trio, Arthur, the nurse, they either live free for the rest of their lives, or some of them die. It's jail or freedom now, death or freedom. So now it's up to the player how he plays. If he's good enough, he can play so everybody survives. Arthur, the nurse, Jack, Leo, Elizabeth, Leo, Jack's and Elizabeth's kid. He survives. Or if the player isn't good enough and barely makes it, Arthur and Leo die while protecting Jack, the nurse, and Elizabeth. So, yeah. For the sake of the video, I must say the good ending came. Everybody survived, and they captured the sheriff, where they make him send a letter saying that, well, the gang died. We're gonna call it a gang because that's what they basically are at this point. The gang died. So now it's up to the player too if he wants to kill the sheriff or let him live. And it's up to you, I guess. I would probably just let him live, but that's me. Another thing is while the trio was back at the city, well, it's a city because now we have factories, we have tendons, and all that. Not yet rated. So while they were back, Jack was having kind of a morality arc, like Arthur did in RDR 2, and that comes back now once they're back in Tahiti because Jack wants to get out of it all. So does Leo, and so does Arthur. They want to leave everything behind. So now they must pick a plan on where to go to because they know they aren't sure if the sheriff might come back with more men. So since they don't want to have to battle no more, they pick to go somewhere. It's up to the player where. It's either Hawaii, Bahamas, or Fiji. If you got a very rare ending, very rare, you can pick Italy. And turns out Elizabeth is actually half Italian, which now sets for the fourth installment called Red Dead Redemption New Kings, which is more based on Jack's son, we'll call him um the Wayne. So the Wayne is half Italian, so you know what that means. New Kings. Kings. What I mean by kings is New York Mafia Kings, which is Red Dead Redemption 4, the Wayne becoming a New York Mafia boss. Yeah, this is my perfect, not perfect, but my preferable way of Red Dead Redemption. How I would like the storyline to go. I could make it more detailed because that's what I was gonna do. My original video was gonna be like an hour long with every single detail. This is kind of sped up in a way. So if you want to see the full 1 hour, like and subscribe. And well, my next video is probably gonna be worked on there. So yeah, thank you for listening and watching. Have a nice day. I love you. Bye.